Larry, you probably weren't paying a lot of attention because I understand that you're moving boxes and putting things into boxes and all this stuff right now because you're moving house and
Yeah, we're moving house after 22 years.
22.
Yeah, which is not bad, but we had been 20 years in the previous house, so it looks like every 20 years I have to move. The next 20 years, I think I'll be moving straight to the graveyard. Uh, the next move. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I love this house. I love where I am. I love living where I do, but my wife thinks that look, she has to run the house,
That's
and it's
right.
a big house, and it's a huge garden, and a lot of. She's done an incredible job, building out this incredibly beautiful garden
Yeah.
and pool and place to live. And it's time for her to get a little bit of space and relaxation. I mean, she's an artist. She works very hard. So,
You'll,
I I have to pay the price for all my, ease of living in the last, I don't know how many years.
however many there are left, we'll know when we know, right, Larry?
Absolutely.
So today we didn't know. Well, we could have guessed maybe after the big down day yesterday. Tesla was up nicely today, up about I think about $9 at the end, if I remember right.
I only caught up to where it was the day before.
Yeah.
Not even that.
Yes, did not quite catch up. No, no, did not. And of course the Baird note that came out today with a very substantial increase in their.
Yeah. I mean, that was an intelligent note.
Yes, it was. What did you think?
My perspective. I think all of these, all of these price targets, which are within the next year,
Mhm.
are moot. Because the reality is that I'm looking at 18 months to 2 years in a strategic move of this company.
Hmm.
And that strategic move will take us to a different place.
Way different than 540.
Exactly. Exactly right. So these are interesting.
Mhm.
These are what the industry's come to expect. These are the sort of things that analysts are required to do according to rules that they have, accreted over time.
Right?
But it's all bullshit, which is, a technical term. So,
Technical term.
um, because you have to treat these things as opportunity and risk.
Right.
The greater the opportunity, the higher the risk.
Hmm.
And you have to balance where the risk stands and where the opportunity stands. The opportunity on Tesla is very high.
Very high.
The risk is reasonably high, but not necessarily as high as the opportunity. And the differential really defines the opportunity.
Mhm.
So I take a very different view. Now, I modify that view by limiting my exposure. A lot of people don't limit the exposure to
Right.
Tesla, but just completely all in and nothing else,
Right.
matters in it. And the worst play the really the players that I really criticize very heavily are those that not only discount the potential risks, which are significant, but also leverage their bets.
Yeah. Right. Yes.
Anyway,
Except
so
except for except for leaps, Larry. You do believe in leaps, which is a leverage bet.
yeah, I invest in leaps, as you
Right.
know,
Right.
and I've spoken about that in the past. It is a leverage bet. Um, and I do leverage some of my Tesla exposure, a
Hmm.
certain percentage of my Tesla exposure, because there's very high, look, I'm not sure it's for everybody. In fact, I'm certain it's not for everybody. And it's not in everybody's interest to do that because of their asset balance and their asset situation. But for me, it works very well and
Well,
has worked very well.
right. And it's worked pretty well for Elon. There was reporting out this morning that he had crossed the $500 billion threshold in terms of net worth. That has now been somewhat, that theory has been messed up just a little bit because part of the theory depended on the value of XAI being higher than it was based on the fact that there was some idea that they had raised $10 billion, making it worth 200 billion. And Elon said, nope, we're not raising money right now. And so he splashed a little cold water on that. What do you think XAI is worth right now?
Whatever you want to make it worth. There is no way to value XAI. I mean, if you have very high levels of conviction in what Elon is going for, you can value it 500 million, 500 billion.
Billion, yeah.
If you have a lower level or what I consider to be a more realistic level, you may value it at 250 billion. If you have a jaundiced view, you may value it as low as 20 billion, or you may value it even lower based upon the amount of cash they've got and the net assets they've got.
Right.
Clearly, that's wrong, and clearly the 500 billion is wrong. Where it fits, I don't care.
Okay.
My exposure is like X%
Right.
of my total net worth is in XAI.
Right.
Now, fortunately, I got into XAI both directly and also indirectly through my investment in X. Altogether, I assign a very high value, and I went into XAI through multiple different vehicles. I didn't stick to one vehicle because these are private investments and the vehicles get a little messy.
Right.
But I have a very high level of conviction on XAI.
Now, but on the last raise that was acknowledged, what was the value then? Was that the $80 billion valuation?
You know, I'd have to look,
Okay.
Randy. I'm sorry you didn't ask me in the green room. I would have looked.
Yeah, right. So
I don't recall these.
So we might be off. It might be 500 billion that he's worth. It might be something less than that. But by all
it's a lot less than 500 billion.
Okay, so we've got 400 billion on SpaceX. That is based on the last raise, the last money raise. We've got XAI at some number between maybe, I think 80 comes to mind, and 200 billion. Then you got Tesla worth 1.41 trillion, of which he currently owns about 14%. I think it is 13 change, something like that.
Yeah.
But he's going to get this again. He doesn't have it yet, but we're going to vote on him having this backup 3 or so percent, or they'll.
These are the completely wrong ways to look at it.
Okay. All right. Okay.
What you have to look at is assets under his control.
Assets under his control. Okay.
That's what you have to look at. And when you look at assets under control, you're looking at about 100 and some billion dollars.
Okay.
The value of them on the open markets is, in the $3 trillion range, $2 to $3 trillion range. That's where he stands.
Okay.
Only time,
Right.
only time, and realization of these incredible assets will determine where he's, where he comes out of this. And I don't think he cares at all.
Oh, I don't think he does either, Larry. It's just that everybody plays the game. There's what do you call it? Bloomberg and I forget somebody else both keep a running score.
Who cares?
It's
Well,
fun.
why is it important?
It's fun.
I mean, what is important is he is driving innovation in about 5 different critical fields.
At least.
At least, yeah, you're correct. And those innovations are going to drive, technology forward, the light of human consciousness forward, as he puts it. It's going to drive our reach out to a Mars frontier, and drive our reach to AI, to general AI, super AI. Why does the actual value we put on it matter?
Mhm.
As I point out in my piece about, well, I haven't published the piece yet. I did a program with Farzad on my idea of him acquiring control of Apple.
Yes, we talked about that the other day on the show. Yeah.
We did, and actually, your channel is the first time I, evidenced this idea. But he has the means to take control of Apple and
Yes.
to change the dynamic of Apple's evolution to the better
Right.
of mankind. And so I don't think the values we place on these things are that important. I think what's important is the end opportunity.
Mhm. Mhm.
I know this doesn't resonate very well with the audience. They want to know what's the share price of Tesla tomorrow, but that's what's important in my life.
Well, later on, you'll have to watch the Peter Diamandis, his moonshot program that
Yeah.
was published earlier today because Alex, their genius, they have this
Yes,
genius guy that they're all geniuses, and they look at him and they go, no, no, he's
they
the
are. Yeah, they are. Seriously, they
But
are.
they really point to Alex. It's kind of like we talk about Brian Wang, it's like, no,
Right.
he's the genius. But anyway, Alex was saying they were asking all four of them, what do they think if they uh, had another 100,000 and they didn't know what to do with, what would they invest in right now? And they went around the table and they came to Alex, and Alex says, well, he says, if I believe my own stuff with regard to where we are on AI right now, then AI is so far ahead of us already in knowing what the valuations are. And the really smart people would already be using AI to figure that out. He says, so why would I think I'd be able to beat the market anymore? So it's like, and the rest of them did just what I do when you go this way, Larry. They look at you and they go, come on, play the game, man.
Play the game, man. Yeah.
Play.
Well, the game, if you want to play the game, then just bet on what
Elon does.
Elon bets on tomorrow,
Well,
or what
speak.
Tom Lee bets on tomorrow. I mean, if you have to be led by a guru, choose gurus that have got very, very strong track records.
Right. Yes.
So, whether you go to Tom Lee, you go to Elon Musk, or you go to, look, that's, but that's not how I invest.
So another one of the guys on the Moonshot program, Dave. Dave said he had his biggest day today in his entire life in terms of making money in a single day because he
No,
had.
he didn't make money in
Okay.
terms of the value of his stocks. This
Yeah, I
whole
don't
thing
think he
of
sold.
making money is
I
just
don't. I don't
so.
think he sold. You're right. I think you're right. I don't think he sold. But what he did do on paper is that he had options on on. No problem. Somebody wants you, Larry. Somebody wants you more than I do. We've lost you. You've fallen down into a hole.
Yeah, well, sorry.
So he had purchased options a couple of months ago on, oh, I'm going to do this again. NVIDIA just put $10 billion into
Intel.
Intel. Yes, for some reason I had a problem with the Intel name. Anyway, so he bought options. He bought leaps. about 3 months ago on Intel. It's and so he said he just had the best day he's ever had in the market, and that's saying a lot because Dave has had some pretty big winners over the years.
Yeah, my godson actually said to me, we were together in Florida, because he's had this very serious um, medical condition. We were
Right.
together, and he said to me he was thinking about buying Intel because it's sort of the backup to NVIDIA, and he thought that NVIDIA would have to use them. And, it didn't happen the way he had in mind, but
Yeah.
what an incredible view.
Yeah.
So I was very impressed.
Well,
And
so what they were saying today is in many ways Intel is too big to fail, or too important to fail.
yeah,
They are really the only domestic chip maker, even though Taiwan Semiconductor makes, products in the United States. Now they're
yeah.
still a Taiwan company, and that Intel needed to have some kind of help, and now the government's come in, and now NVIDIA's come in, so this puts them on a pretty good trajectory, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you'd given, the right consideration to it, Intel was a natural buy. I had Intel shares for years, and did I tell you the circumstance in which I sold them
Oh,
15 years ago, 20 years ago, no, 22 years ago?
wow.
I had an employee she was incredible. She was kind of our lead implementation specialist in our software company.
Yep.
And she had a sister that was in Intel, quite a senior person. And she arranged a luncheon for me and her sister when I was in Palo Alto one year. It was in the no, maybe the 80s, the late 80s. That, in fact, it was in the 90s.
Okay.
So, so she arranged this lunch, and we went to lunch, and it was on the lawns of, I don't know, some college, and they would, anyway, very pleasant. And in the conversation, I said to this young person, this, senior, she wasn't a young person. She was getting, senior, and I said to her, you know, tell me a little bit about your career. And she said, well, next year I'm on sabbatical. I said, sabbatical? What does that mean? She said, well, at Intel, if you've been here for 7 years, you get a year off. Can you do whatever you do? I said, well, do you get paid a salary? She said, sure.
Yeah.
And I said, you come back and work at, yes. She said, if you wish, you come back and you work at Intel. I said, wow, that's really nice. I went home and I sold my Intel stock.
It sounded like a really nice perk, but you weren't sure it was going to be a good thing long term.
No, I was sure that the culture
Yeah.
at Intel had failed. And what's interesting about that is that I'd read these books on Intel and about, scoring your you your objectives against your actual and all kinds of stuff. And I'd been quite impressed with the Intel culture.
Uh-huh.
And then I heard this and I looked into it, and that convinced me Intel was dead.
Ah, interesting.
And the interesting thing about that is that we tried to sell into Intel. We were really anxious to sell into Intel, and we did some very, very impressive proofs of concept at Intel, and they were very interested.
Yeah.
But they couldn't make that leap
Mm.
to get out of what they were doing to what we were trying to show them, which was AI related, AI adjacent and AI, and this is back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Getting towards the end of it. I just realized that the levels of bureaucracy, the levels of, anyway, the point is that I thought Intel's days were done, that the pioneering days of Intel were over, and all they were about was corporate methods of multiplying their monopoly position, and I was out of it.
So you brought up the idea the other day of Elon buying a stake in Apple and trying to make that company, turn that company around. Meanwhile, Bradford Ferguson was talking about continuing his theory about that Tesla should buy back shares, and if they had taken his advice 7 months ago or 8 months ago when he suggested it, they would have already doubled the value of those shares in the meantime. Dylan Loomis last night said that he was going to give Bradford Ferguson a thumbs up for that idea. And so you're giving thumbs down. Now, here's my
seriously bad idea.
Okay, so let me add a wrinkle. Okay. I really was paying attention all those years when Apple was doing the buybacks. I mean, I would listen with both of my ears and everything, any way that I could. I was listening to the entire call. I was watching the stock ticker during the call. How much are they going to, buy back now? And I knew that they had no place else to spend it. I mean, they had sometimes they had
Apple have run out of ideas.
150 billion in the bank. And, what are you going to do with 150 billion in those days, especially? So I watched that with great interest, and I kept thinking, why wouldn't they, very carefully buy on the dips? And that's, of course, one of the things Bradford is saying is buy on the dips. Don't just buy, the
dips are only dips in retrospect.
Of course they are. Of course they are.
Everybody says buy on the dips.
Well, it could be a dip
are dippy themselves. Listen, you see this guy behind me?
Yeah.
That's a moonshot.
Right. Or a Mars shot.
A Mars shot. I mean, when you start buying on the dips of your own shares, when you start buying your own shares, what you're saying is, I have no moonshots left. I have no imagination left. I'm done. Here's your money back.
So you think it sends a wrong signal?
No, I mean, it's perfectly legit. It's perfectly right. It's not the wrong thing to do. If you're out of ideas, if you're at the end of your game, if you want to relax and reach your 65th year and retire on a great pension, hey, this is fantastic. But if you want to be in the cutting edge of innovation, this is no country for old men.
So, okay, now let me give you one more theory here. Just a little bit of variation on the theory. We know that we're throwing off capital. We're throwing off free cash flow now already. Not bad.
You're saying you're talking about
Tesla. In addition, we know that to that free cash flow that we're throwing off, we are already investing at really high levels before the free cash flow.
Low levels.
Okay, but most people would say high levels and that we're getting more done than anybody else in the entire.
No, we're so capital efficient.
Yes.
That the capital we're investing is going a hell of a long way further than our competitors.
100%. Exactly. So we're together exactly at this point. So if we look into the future, we're looking at that free cash flow and we're going, what do we do with that free cash flow? Do we buy Bitcoin? Do we buy another?
No, we buy robotaxis and we buy Optimi.
Okay, but now those robotaxis and Optimi, at least initially, at least for the next couple of 3 years, are going to have payback. Even if we put them in our own fleet, in the Tesla fleet, the payback is going to be so fast, Larry.
Well, let's wait for the payback.
Wait, okay. So
when the payback comes, hey, I'm going to be the first guy to say, let me get my hands on this free cash flow. Let them pay that back to me. But you guys, I sound like Elon now.
I'm actually
That guy,
in the middle on this one.
that guy.
I'm playing the middleman here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking to that guy.
Yeah, right.
I mean, you guys, that guy just thinks that it's all automatic, that we're going to get to this nirvana in 3 months, and that we're going to have all these robotaxis on the road, and we're going to have all these optimize, and the money's going to be rolling in, blah, 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 blah. Elon is a little bit more intelligent than me. He's lived this life, and he understands that the road to the future has many problems and roadblocks and, intersections that where the red lights won't turn green, and until the future happens, the future hasn't happened. And so if you don't have,
Write that down, Larry.
you can write whatever you like. I mean, the point is that you can't convince me, and you can't assume that the future is simply going to happen the way you predict it. Mm-hmm. And so if you're Elon, or if you're me, or if you're a relatively sensible business person, you protect against that future. And so 35 billion sounds like a whole lot of money. It's nothing compared to what he has to invest in terms of a fleet of robotaxis, a fleet of Optima.
Okay, my last argument. Let's say that his very highly sophisticated and talented CFO looks into a combination of futures. He says, okay, this is the highest amount, this is the lowest, the same thing you and I have done our entire business life, good, better, best, or worst case, best case, all these different possible scenarios. The CFO looks into the future and says, even if we want to build and put 100,000
a million.
I'm sorry, a million next year. Okay, 1 million robotaxis into our fleet next year. Even if we want to put 100,000 Optimus into our fleet next year, and then the next year we want to 10x. Well, we won't be 10xing both of those. And we want to double up on the robotaxis and 10x on the robots. I've looked at all of those numbers. I've looked at the cash flow that would flow from those scenarios. I'm looking at the cash flow that will flow from the cars and from everything else that we're doing, the energy. I've looked at all of that, and it still looks to me like we would be throwing off, in addition to all of that and what we might need for.
You see, this is the difference between you and me, Randy.
Yeah.
You're looking at the great scenarios that could occur.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the downside.
Okay.
The Optima fail, the robotaxi fails. We have to go back. We have to fix the Optima. We have to, China's coming out with all these competitive things. We have to improve that. We have to go back. We lose the year. The robotaxi, well, this happens, that happens, this shit happens.
Uh-huh.
What is the backstop? How much reserves do we have? What do we have to do? The stock price goes back down to 100, below 100, goes back to 80. How do we survive? That's the difference between somebody who's done this and somebody who's not done this.
So your analysis is on both sides. You're saying on the one side, it could be pretty much on plan.
Yeah.
And if we're on plan, we need a lot of capital for the first couple of years of that plan. Or both robotaxi and Optimus could fail in some significant way. Car sales could continue to be flat, if maybe because
there's a decline.
Yeah. And so car sales stay flat. So there's not throwing off as much free cash flow even on those as we were expecting to. And so therefore we would need the backup money but there's a point at which, right? There's a point at which some of this and this is what I was saying all the last week after Elon put his $1 billion in. I said, Elon is the only guy that gets to walk into the lab. Well, one of a few
300.
people that have signed have signed away their life if they would tell anything that they know. But he has the combination. He has all the knowledge. He walks into this lab and this lab and this lab. He looks at the financials. He has the complete set of knowledge. He made the $1 billion bet. I don't think he made the $1 billion bet without knowing that or having an extremely strong understanding of where they are on Optimus and Robotaxi.
And your point is?
And my point is that the likelihood of those failing at this point, I think, is pretty.
I don't think you're right.
Okay. All right.
I think Elon is calculating what they're doing is the right thing, but he has no knowledge of the future.
Nobody does, of course.
Because it is the
future. That's right.
So he's hedging his bets. What is the hedge? Well, we may go out and fail. We may actually produce, we may produce look, not everything that Elon has done has succeeded the first time.
No.
He's had to, go back and, try it again and so on and so forth. So I think that this notion that it's all done and that FSD is going to go to this full self-driving and we're going to have robotaxis across the United States in the next year, and that we're going to have, all these sales next year and all this revenue from robotaxis, and that everything's great and that Optimus is going to come out next year. I mean, if I were Elon, not if I were Elon. I do believe Elon is not in a space where he can say it's a done deal.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's in a space where he can say, we've done the best we can, and I think we're going to make it on every front.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the right thing to do is to take a 60 to 70 to even 80% view of that and backstop us for that 20%. Because the last thing Elon wants is to be back in 2018,
right,
2017,
right,
and face potential bankruptcy.
Right.
$35 billion is nothing in the grand scheme of this thing. It's nothing. It's like, I mean, Google has got like 5 times that amount.
Right.
No, not quite 5, but 3 times that amount. Microsoft has got 3.5 times that amount. He has to be able to compete. And, I've presented the case for him buying control of Apple.
Right.
He has to have the reserve, the strategic reserve,
right,
to move on that kind of move, given the competition, the competitive environment he's in.
Well, and you're saying, and again, on the Apple purchase, you're calling that an Elon Musk purchase, not a Tesla purchase. So that's a completely separate, even though
that depends upon the liquidity of every company in his group.
Sure.
And the valuation of every company in his group.
Right. Right. On a very, very, very different subject.
By the way, let me make a point.
Sure.
The valuation of Tesla would change not one jot if they bought back some stock.
Oh, okay. I think there's a good possibility that you're right. because it seems it's a story stock. And so a story stock is not.
Exactly. You're right on top of it.
Yeah, yeah. All right, I have a political one for you tonight too, Larry. I could not go without sharing this with you.
Okay.
This is Laura Loomer.
Yeah.
We for those of you out there who don't know who Laura Loomer is, she is a political operative. She is considered by many to be a little bit loony, but she's not. She's brilliant. She has the ear of the president like maybe nobody else. She is kind of the one who looks over the list of people being hired and fired and says yes, no, yes, no. And she came out with a list today, Larry. She says, do you want to stop political violence in the United States? And also the power of the left by 85% overnight? And she has a list. She says, here's my playbook. Number one on her playbook, designate Antifa as a terrorist organization. What did the president do today? You might have missed it. He put out an executive order. Antifa is now designated as a terrorist organization.
You know, Antifa apparently doesn't have an organization.
Yeah, that's what they claim.
They're very clever in terms of avoiding any corporatism.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, look, you know, I have I'm in a difficult situation because I really believe in in free speech,
Right.
freedom of speech.
Yeah, yeah.
Anybody who organizes violence and violent demonstrations, I have problems with.
Right.
Antifa seems to be within that realm, but on the other hand, they don't have formal organization. They don't have a formal organization. I would like to ensure that we don't overdo this.
Well, they've done it.
We the right.
They've done it.
Yeah.
The president has done it. But what they're going to do is obviously they're going to say what they're saying basically is to the FBI and Homeland Security, they're a terrorist organization, and now you need to, if you aren't already, you need to step up what you're doing with regard to them and find out who's financing them. Find out, how are they getting the money to do what they're doing? Because they're getting money. How are they training? Who's putting together the training system? There's an organization there, Larry. I'm 100% sure of that. Number two on the list is designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. That should be an easier call.
Yep. That's a much easier call. I mean, the Muslim Brotherhood is clearly, a very strong terrorist-inspired organization. I think far more so than Antifa. Antifa tend to do this, these demonstrations that get, extreme. Muslim Brotherhood fund real terrorists who, kill people on a large scale.
Number three is charge and move to censure every single member of Congress who attends galas of the Muslim Brotherhood groups. We all know who I'm talking about, she says, and take money from them.
Take money from them is very important. Take money from actually state actors that finance political groups in the United States. I would do that. And by the way, I would take state actors that get money from the United States government.
Yeah, yeah.
Republican and Democrat. I would outlaw any government funding of any political organization of any nature whatsoever.
Yes. Well, and that takes us to number four. Identify every single leftist 501c3 that is aiding illegal aliens, supporting open borders, invoking anti-Trump messaging in violation of the prohibition on partisan political activity in 501c3s. You're not
I would
spending
add
5%.
any organization on the right,
Right. Yes.
any political organization of any political venture or stature at all, and that is a 501c3, any of them receiving actual government funding, I would
No,
say,
charitable donations in this case.
Yeah,
That's what they are. They're a charitable donation, and you get to write it off if you donate to them. And it's like even churches are 501c3s, and you can only spend, I believe it's 5% of your budget on political activity. So if they're spending more than 5% on political activity, they should lose their 501c3 status.
I agree.
Okay, number five, identify every Islamic charity affiliated with the Muslim Brotherhood and shut them down and charge their members for financing Islamic terrorism.
100% agree.
Okay. Number six, identify every 501c3 that uses anti-fascist in their fundraising emails or social media posts and shut them down.
Yeah, anti-fascism has become really a serious, cover for any organization that's opposed to movements on the right.
Right.
The problem is that can be easily corrupt, basis for corruption. We have to be careful. We have to allow political speech on the right as well as political speech on the left.
Right. But not within a 501c.
Not, yeah, well,
5%. That's the rule. Now you can change the rule. Congress could change it to 15% or 50%.
yeah,
But the rule stands now, it's 5%, I think.
that's true. There you have me. I would like free speech. I don't want free speech to be free luncheon.
Right.
I don't want them to get tax benefits for free speech.
Yes. Number 8 is threaten. Now, this is one that's going to be tougher, okay? Threaten the social media companies with massive multi-billion-dollar fines if they don't ban people who post assassination threats.
Yeah, that's troubling. The question is, what is an assassination threat?
Right.
If assassination, shooting, killing is the threat, then, the question is, do you allow it? And if you allow it, what are the limits in terms of publicly funded groups?
Well, no, now this is social media. They're saying that the social media needs to ban people who make such threats. So we know that that's not constitutional. You're not allowed to make a threat against someone. Now there's some, what do you want to call it? There's some nuances.
Gray area.
You can say, I wish they were dead. Well, that's not an assassination threat. But if you say, I wish, or I desire, or somebody out there should go right now and kill that person. I mean, there's a way that it can be said and a way that it can't be said. If it looks like it's actually with intentionality of inciting somebody to go do it, I think that's where the rule is.
Well, you're the lawyer, but what I want to avoid is shutting down free speech.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I don't want to creep into, and I'd rather be permissive of speech rather than creep into this situation where you can't say anything that has any nuance that may be interpreted as a threat.
Right, right. Well, if you like, we can spend a minute on the whole business of the NBC, CBS, ABC.
Yeah.
Because the argument right now has been, well, that's free speech if people want to say these things. And but he's a comedian. He's just a.
Yeah, but in the Kimmel case, he claimed that that the killer, Charlie Kirk's killer, we talk about Charlie Kirk's killer like it's
I know.
doesn't matter, but I mean, anyway, he's claiming that Charlie Kirk's killer was actually a Republican
Right. A MAGA.
who was a MAGA. Now, he was stating a lie,
Mhm.
straight out incorrect, based upon an assumption that he made.
Mhm.
So, are you permitted to lie? I think you are.
Are you permitted to lie on public airwaves where you are consistently not acting in the public interest?
Public interest is not an issue, it's not a concern from a constitutional point of view.
No, that's the rule on public airways. That's the exact quote.
Well, it may be a rule on public airways, but I'm looking at the Constitution.
Oh, okay. Now I'm talking about the deal you make when you get a license from the United States is that you're going to operate in the public interest. If the government can come in and find that you're not operating in the public interest.
Well, any rules that are made that are not constitutional don't bother me. I mean,
Okay.
so I have to resort to the issue of the Constitution because rules and laws are governed ultimately by the Constitution.
Right.
So the Constitution, the way I interpret the Constitution, and I'm not a lawyer, I'd be the first to say that. I'm anything but a lawyer, actually. The way I read the Constitution, you can have any opinion you like, including that the guy is acting immorally.
Mhm.
And I don't think that's unconstitutional. Now, granting him a license for public broadcast, that I think, is an open issue. But then, is granting a license a constitutional action? Like if we have a public square, can somebody stand up in the public square and say, I think Charlie Kirk's a bad guy and that it's good that he was shot? That's the question you can ask.
So the difference, once again, it seems like a nuanced difference, but it's important, is that the company that is providing the news or the entertainment has made an agreement. They've signed a contract. They've said, we understand that there's only a limited amount of this public access available. There's only a certain amount of broadband that's available. And the government owns the broadband, or they control the broadband, and they are giving this broadband, not even giving, they're charging you a lot of money in order to use this much of the spectrum. But part of the deal that you get when you do that is you need to operate in the public interest, and that's been found over the years to include balanced news coverage as opposed to one-sided news coverage. It's been determined in the past to include not using certain words or having people doing some sexual acts that would not, on the television screen, would not be in the public interest. So this public interest issue has changed from time to time. So it's possible that we can change the rules, but as the rules stand today, that's where we are, is serving the public interest or not. So is lying, clearly lying about something that is pretty much impossible to, in a time when that lie could be insightful. I don't mean insightful in terms of his brain. I mean, could incite people to take murderous action, let's say, could cause the country to become inflamed. Is that in the public interest? But I mean,
all of this is of interest and of consequence. I think that, elections will sort this out.
That's eventually that's true.
And
I thought it would be fun to kick it around with you, Larry.
and it is fun, but it has particular moments. I mean, particularly at this moment,
Yes.
it has particular moment. So at the end of the day, I really want to protect free speech,
100%.
but on the other hand, I want to recognize that speech has limits and boundaries.
Comes
And
with responsibility.
in terms of taking advantage of, government support and government, rights and particularly earning revenue from, the sort of public interest or the public capital
Right.
of bandwidth is of moment. And the time has come to end the monopoly on these public goods that the sort of special interests had over the years. And I think that's your primary issue, that these relatively left-leaning organizations have had control. We had PBS, we managed to cut them off. They had control of these public goods, these public good interests. So I think that's really underlying all of this.
It's certainly a big piece of it, but
Yeah.
but as you point out, there are these kind of fundamental choices that are difficult to make. I'm not claiming they're easy. All right, I wanted to share that with you, Larry. So this is Friday night. We know that I've gotten a few right and you've gotten a few right, but I'm making a call tonight. I'm making the call that it's time to buy bonds again. I've done it twice now. I did it, you may remember, at 5%.
Yep, you
and
did.
At 4.5. Both times I was right. Those were both tops. So I'm calling it again. 4.15 is the top.
I'm aligned.
Okay. Okay.
You're right. Time to buy bonds.
Time to buy bonds.
In fact, yesterday was the time to buy bonds.
Yesterday was the time to buy bonds. All right, Larry. Great talking to you. Get back to go back to fixing your move there, getting the
Moving a house. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I'm glad it's not me. I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud?
Well, thank you, Randy. I will report to you on Monday on how the move has gone.
I will look forward to it as always. And thank you to all of you out there for watching. And it's been great talking to you.